Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Redford, and this is the follow-up. Coming up on tonight's show, it's a transportation hub for mid-Michigan, both on the water and on the land, with 4 bridges that are the subject of much debate and controversy. One of those bridges was shut down in recent weeks to be replaced, and another is set to reopen to start taking tolls. Well, the focus of the issue is right here in Bay City. The impact on taxpayers and motorists is actually statewide. Tonight we have 3 guests who work in the front lines of this important transportation issue and what you need to know. But first, we would like to hear from you to help drive the discussion here on the follow-up. You can do that in a variety of ways via social media on Facebook. You can email us, you can dial into our follow-up hotline to voice your opinion or suggest future show topics. And if you'd like to watch any of our past shows, you can log on to deltapublicmedia.org. Our first guest tonight, Kevin Bischel. He's the general manager of the Bay City Bridge Partners subsidiary of the United Bridge Partners, right?
Yes.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Your company is actually leasing 2 of the 4 bridges in the city of Bay City, the Liberty and the Independence. Liberty has been taking tolls since about June of 2023. And in a couple of weeks, the Independence Bridge will go online to start taking tolls now that the work on the bridge is about to be complete. So let's kind of start there. Let's talk about the tolling process and maybe clear up some misconceptions that you know that are out there.
Sure. We've been tolling for a while, so we do hear a lot of different questions. And like you mentioned, Independence is just about wrapping up. We're going to start tolling Independence here in a couple weeks on January 1st. So there's a lot of questions out there about how it works, who can do what discounts and things like that. So one of the things we hear constantly is if I'm a Bay City resident, I'm supposed to be free for 5 years. They think they have to put a credit card on file or anything like that, but they don't. They just need to come into our office or call, bring a copy of their driver's license and registration, and we'll sign you up and give you a sticker which goes in your windshield. It's a lot like a sticker you might get at a car wash, and that just basically lets us know that you're a resident as you go back and forth. So,
and if they don't, what's sort of the downside? You just don't know what vehicle they're in and who they are, right?
We don't know who they are. The area is a little unique in that you could live in one of the townships and have a Bay City mailing address, or you could be a business and have a Bay City mailing address. So we don't know you're a Bay City resident unless you get that sticker and basically let us know who you are. If you don't, we have to manually look up your license plate. We have a person read your license plate and a computer reads your license plate. Then we send it off to the Secretary of State to look up who owns the vehicle, and we have to generate an invoice. So all that adds costs that really is, it's not needed. So the transponder, or what we call a BC Pass, is the way to go.
So I know you've been taking tolls on Liberty Bridge for about 1.5 years. It hasn't necessarily been a smooth ride. There have been a few complaints about billing issues, among other things. So can you talk about some of the challenges you've experienced, what you've learned from that, and what changes you might see down the road?
Sure. We acknowledge that it was a little bumpy at the start. I think we underestimated how new tolling was to the area and kind of the ramp up. So we've added staff, added training. We've added extra cameras on the equipment. Michigan, for example, doesn't have a front license plate, so that makes it a little trickier. There's some learning curve on what's a 0 or an O, for example, on a license plate. That's why we added that human element of reviews. But we've really just been trying to get out in the public more, go where people are, where they work, live, or play. And explain things, do shows like this to try
Sure.
to explain, what we're all about and how the system works.
So what's sort of like the estimated traffic volume you expect on sort of both the bridges? Have you seen traffic patterns change? Do you expect traffic patterns to change once the Independence is open and as motorists are sort of trying to find alternative ways to kind of get around?
Right. I think there will be a learning curve as Independence opens. I mean, it has been open during construction. We've had some brief closures, including a short one this week while we're wrapping up the project. But people will find their route. We encourage them to use the bridges, of course. That's why we encourage the monthly pass, which is an unlimited kind of Netflix-style subscription, all you can eat.
Sure.
Covers both bridges, and that way they don't have to worry about how many times they've used it. So, but yeah, there will be a learning curve on getting to know the bridge and the route. That with the Lafayette construction also, there's a lot of moving parts in Bay City right now.
So let's take a step back and sort of educate our viewers on sort of the history of why the United Bridge Partners, Bay City Bridge Partners, kind of stepped in to lease the two bridges from the city and opt for this tolling process. As you said, this is a new thing. We're just getting used to it. I mean, for the most part, the numbers for the city just didn't add up, right? I mean, the options were either, I assume, either shut them down or shut a couple down, or you're going to raise taxes. So take us down that path.
Right. So the city went through a very long and deliberate process to evaluate the options. They hired an outside consultant, looked at studies to see how much it would cost to repair the bridges. Both were very expensive to get them back up into a state of good repair. I think people misestimate how much a movable bridge costs. It's probably 5 to 10 times more expensive than a normal bridge. Imagine your car to maintain. It's just like that. It's a big piece of equipment sitting outside in Michigan winter. So it takes a lot of maintenance also. The city was spending about $1 million just to maintain the bridges per year. So that's a huge expense for a city the size of Bay City to have two movable bridges. So they looked at repairing it. They looked at getting grant funds from the city, the state, taking the county, asking the county for extra support. But there's a lot of infrastructure needs everywhere. So with two of the bridges in town to take care of, it's hard to get the money for the city bridges. So they issued an RFP, or request for proposals, to bring on firms like us to evaluate the options. So they ultimately selected us, and we've been working in close partnership with them since. But just to give you a sense of the scale of the $150 million project, that would have been about a $500 per year per household property tax for citizens of Bay City on the typical house. So while tolling isn't popular, it is more of a user fee. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it, versus a property tax where it's very narrowly defined to the property taxes.
Right, and for United Bridge Partners, this is not your first rodeo. No. I mean, you're an experienced company. You've been down this road before in other cities doing other bridges. So I think the community can have some confidence in your experience, right?
Yes, I think we've done other bridges. We do follow all the state standards for construction. We want to build a quality bridge. We want it to last. We're responsible for any maintenance, so we want it to be a great bridge and a good experience.
So looking at it now, what do sort of the financials look like? Again, it's still fairly new. You've only been tolling for 1.5 years, and now Independence is coming online. You feel good about where you're tracking the financials, where you sort of forecasted where you might be at this point?
Yeah, we're on track. I think the Independence Bridge will be a heavier use bridge. There's more traffic on Independence. Liberty is fairly close to the Veterans Bridge, so people can reroute a little easier, and that is kind of nice. I mean, we're not a monopoly. People can choose or not choose to use the bridge. So Independence, I think, is going to have a lot more traffic. We're a little like a utility in some regards, that we have the huge upfront cost and then a very long time to recoup those costs. So, but we're on track.
So at the beginning of the show, I did mention that this is not just a Bay City issue, just not a Bay County issue. And for viewers that maybe don't live in this county, in the city, I mentioned this is really impacting motorists, I think, statewide, whether or not you're traveling to and from up north, but also if you live in a community that might have a Bischel bridge or other infrastructure that's deteriorating. Are they looking to Bay City to say, hey, this may be something that we have to figure out? And as you look ahead in the business that you're in, is that something that maybe others around the state are saying, this is something we might have to do?
That's always a potential. I mean, I think it's best suited for a very large project or an expensive project like a Bischel bridge. But I think tolling or user fees are kind of the something that's coming down the road, more and more popular, especially in other states, because there's only so many infrastructure funds available, and inflation's been eating up a lot of the infrastructure money that is out there. So I think it's a good option.
So your final thoughts on this segment before I say goodbye to you.
Sure.
Can you reiterate what you want people to do, the website, what's involved in that? Like a lot of times you have to sign up. a username, password. So run them through that and where they have to go.
Sure. Our website address is baycitybridgepartners.com, or you can stop by, which I really encourage, to do face-to-face at Washington and Center in Bay City. Bring your vehicle registration and your license. And if you're a resident, that's all you need. If you're non-resident or commercial, bring a credit card or a funding source that we can attach to your account. But it really works like a utility bill. You sign up for an account. You can manage it online like a utility bill, pay it online. And we just encourage people to get that sticker, which is when you sign up for an account, you get a transponder sticker called the BC Pass, and that allows you to pay the lowest possible rate.
And if they have issues, they can call, you guys can respond, you can walk them through it, whether it's signing up or just any other kind of complaints or concerns that they have. You guys are ready to handle it.
Really encourage people to reach out.
Right.
We want to hear from you. We want to address your problems or questions. We know the sooner we can take care of them, the better. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
All right, Kevin Bischel, thanks for coming on. Good luck with getting the Independence Bridge on board in a couple of weeks, and I appreciate your time tonight. So.
All right, thank you so much.
And as you walk off, I've got a couple of other guests from the Michigan Department of Transportation. They're going to walk in. Steve Katenhus, he is the MDOT's Bay City TSC manager, which is Transportation Service Center manager.
That's correct.
Right here. And I've got Bob Ranck, MDOT's Bay Region engineer. And you have a 16-county area. 15 county area, not just the Bay County. You've got 15 or 16 counties, so that's awesome. So I'm going to start with Steve because the two Bay City bridges that we didn't talk about in our first segment with Kevin were the Veterans Bridge and the Lafayette Bridge, owned and maintained by the state. Neither are toll bridges, so let's make that clear to the viewers if you didn't know. Let's focus on Lafayette.
Sure.
It's been shut down to traffic a couple weeks now. Goes through a complete rebuild. Before we get into things like the cost and the timeline,
Sure.
Can you tell us a little about sort of the history of this bridge, kind of condition it's in and was in, and to warrant the rebuild? So just kind of walk us down that path, how we got to this point.
Sure. It's been kind of a long process. We started back really in 2013 working on environmental assessment to analyze what the best fix is for that bridge. And so now we are segued into 2024, and some of the factors that played into the decision to go ahead and replace the bridge is it is built on a 1938 foundation. So we've got wood piling in the ground, we've got an older foundation, and you've got that infrastructure on top that has to be finely calibrated and basically go up and down perfectly every time. So just like life, you're only as good as your foundation. So if your foundation is off a little bit, then the rest of the structure could be too. So we've had some scour issues underneath the structure. That's really the driving force behind that is that aging infrastructure foundation below on that structure. So it's been a long, tedious process to get us where we're at now. We started almost 10 years ago with doing an environmental assessment, and we carried through with a plan to actually do this project in 2020. But due to rising costs and the group that kind of oversees the statewide big bridge programming and funding said, let's pump the brakes. It's getting a little bit pricey. I'm not sure if we want to invest that much money into this aging infrastructure. Let's hold off a little bit and see what happens with the existing bridge, how it's operating. Maybe we want to pause it. And then as a couple years transpired, they said, okay, now this is a priority. We are going to allocate funding to go ahead and remove and replace the entire structure and start with a brand new infrastructure in its place.
So let's talk about the cost and timeline. I guess cost first.
Sure.
This is sort of funded many ways, I'm sure, through the feds, the state, the city, county, a little bit of everybody. It's north of 100 million, right?
Yeah, it's 112 million. It's generally it's about an 80-20 split for funding.
Okay.
80% federal, 20% state funded. And with that, we had this group of folks that decided it's a priority to replace, had allocated the money to go ahead and replace it. Well, during our latest design process, we applied for a bridge investment program grant with the federal government, and we were successful in receiving that grant, which was worth $73 million. So The money that we had allocated originally to replacing the structure is now injected with the 73 million. We were able to take those funds statewide and put those into another statewide bridge or big bridge project. So by getting that grant brought to us by the bipartisan infrastructure bill that came through, really solidified that, okay, we are going to go for this. We are going to replace the structure. It is a priority, and now we are where we are right today, replacing the structure.
Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about detours and the change to motorists and so forth in a moment. I'm going to talk to Bob now. Can't leave him out. Aside from the four Bay City bridges that we focused on thus far in the show, you have other bridges and roads to maintain in the Bay region, 15 counties. Can you give us a sense as to how many miles of roads and bridges you're sort of accountable for, at least kind of give us an idea of how big the region is? And we mentioned 15 counties, so maybe I answered that already.
We have about 1,100 bridges or so that we maintain in our 15 counties. We also have about 5,000 lane miles, which is 1 mile per lane. So we maintain all that, and we really only have about $100 million on average to maintain that. So the big bridges like this, taking $100 million for one project is a big substantial amount of money to help our budget. If you noticed around the state, we have been doing a lot of construction over the last 3.5 years. And that has been because we've been able to refinance and be able to release some bonds. So the work that we've done has been able to do some long-term fixes that we can do and be able to then backfill some of the projects that we had in the original 5-year plan. So then that will be ending pretty soon, and then we will be going back to handling our normal bridge and road program that will be really kind of go back to where we're going to deal with the cost of inflation and the cost of the bond payments and the cost of the materials. So we're going to work hard to do that. So you'll see a lot of work over the next couple of years, but it will be starting to tail off to more normal after this.
So as you look ahead the next year, 2, 3 years, I'm sure you look ahead. Can you share with it all what were some of the bigger priorities, the bigger projects that you might be working on that we can look forward to?
Sure. Well, in Flint, we've had the I-475 corridor. We have been one of those projects that has been neglected for a long time, so we're able to take care of that. And once we get done with 475 over the next 3 to 4 years, we will be starting to concentrate on other freeway sections like US 10 and I-75 and I-75 in Flint and 127. So all those other ones will kind of take up the backfills as we keep going. So this is we have non-freeways and we have freeways that we really been working on as a strategy.
So both of you can weigh into this. So I was kind of doing some research in the last couple of days, and according to a recent survey, 76% of state-owned highways, this is in 2023, were considered in good or fair condition, which I thought was higher than what I would have thought, I guess, but only 54% of local roads got a passing grade. So lots of work to do, but finding the money to do it, as you talked about, and getting the work done, it's a huge issue. So even though our governor campaigned in that first term on fixing the damn roads, and not to blame her, that's for sure, but what do you think of those numbers? Are we kind of getting behind the 8 ball? What are your thoughts? Is the money going to be there? How do you feel about those numbers? When you look at the roads locally, state highways, what do you see? You've been at this 34 years, been at this 30. So where are we in terms of the shape of our roads and bridges?
We have a lot of M roads also that are 2-lane roads that are that way. We do see a decline, and the condition that we're going to have is going to decline if we don't shore that up, just because of the materials and the cost that's been happening with manpower. So we have a plan to try to look at moving some projects out and get them more methodically and make more focused type fixes rather than do the long-term fixes that we've been doing with this bonding funds that we had, because we have to start paying that back. Start paying it back every year, a quarter of our overall program. So that's going to cause some tightening of the belt.
Yeah, I bet the questions you get, and when people start talking about roads and bridges, they'll say, well, gosh, I just traveled 69, and They had construction on this 2 years ago, and they're doing it again. Can you kind of explain to us a little how that works? It's not one size fits all. Our roads take a beating because of the weather. You can't use the same materials on the same road. So can you kind of walk us through, there's a balance there when you fix roads, right?
Yes, we have we do a long-term fix, but then we have a scheduled maintenance fixes that we come in. So we will come back in and do it when cracks develop. We'll do a crack seal, we'll do surface seal. We do all kinds of mix of fixes in our bag of tricks to be able to continually keep that in good shape. You don't just wait for your house to completely develop holes in it. You do shingling work and you do other things. So that's what we do. It's a planned strategy to come in and then be able to continually maintain it. We don't want to have every road come to be fixed at the same time. So we keep extending the life as we do those short-term fixes. So yes, it's a short-term time. Sometimes people see it nice and beautiful and black asphalt there or what concrete there, but then they end up seeing that it's kind of planned.
It's interesting because we all want the roads and bridges fixed, but we don't want to go through the detours. We don't want to get stopped for hours on our commute, but that's sort of the reality. You can't have it all. So Steve, I'll go back to you. Sure. Let's talk a little bit about the detours, alternative routes. Now that Lafayette Bridge is down, you're doing the work. Can you help the motorists,
Sure.
the commuters? How do you guide them best to get around where they need to go?
Absolutely. I just want to, we've iterated our detours before, but let's get it back out to customers. We do have a separate truck detour route and a car detour route. And so we generally use our own route. So our truck route is going to, heading from west side, use M13 to M25 over to M84. We also have set up and worked with the city in regards to a car detour route that actually has patrons utilize Salzburg Road or Lafayette Street to Winona, up to Henry to 25, and connect over to the east side and so on. So one thing I want to do with our viewers today is just remind folks that we encourage people to use the car detour route. We still have businesses down along Salzburg that still want to see their patrons. Our middle grounds, or what's commonly called the middle grounds, is open. It's open for business. You can go around the barricade. The Boys and Girls Club's there. There's an establishment on south part of the middle grounds there that would love to see patrons visit them too. So it is, and we have businesses on the east side of the river that you can get around the barricades. Please remember those places as you patronize,
Sure.
the other businesses in town. So
Let's have to go around a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more time.
Yep.
Make sure you support those.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then we do want to remind our viewers today that it is a little bit harder to get around town now. Increased volumes. Take the extra 30 seconds. Be patient as we try to navigate. As far as the detour route goes, Mike, we have had our signals folks work on the timing, trying to get people from point A to point B through M25 or through Bay City a lot faster.
Right.
We've added some improvements to some signals. So we do recognize there's a large influx of traffic using 25. We're trying to make every accommodation possible that we can with our infrastructure to try to ease the pain of traveling that detour route.
And you can get public transportation, take a bus for free?
Yes. Because we do recognize there's several walkers and bikers that utilize Lafayette. Now that they can no longer use that, we are offering free bus tickets utilizing Bay Metro. Then all people need to do is contact our office, and we'll supply that information to you. And we'll take your information down. We're generally looking at people that live within a 1 mile radius of the bridge. Make sure that, hey, if you're disenfranchised, you want to cross the river, we will provide you free bus tickets. You just, again, contact our office. We will send those out via mail. We're kind of keeping track of those for our users to make sure that we are serving the public as best we can.
Excellent.
During this time.
So Bob, we got a couple more minutes here. I'd like to touch on sort of work zone safety, big issue, particularly not only reminding drivers to take it slow, use some caution there, can even be more hazardous. You've got workers on the road during these winter driving conditions that we're just beginning again. So what else is MDOT doing in terms of creating more safety in those work zones?
Well, we have been doing a lot of different creative things, like on the approach to the work zones. We've been doing rumble strips, and we've had barrier wall put in. We've had your speed is now type things. We have a lot of automation in there. We've had, last year we had about 8,000 crashes in our work zone, and then we had about 1,900 crashes that resulted in injury, and we had 24 deaths in there. So we're really concerned about that. When we have a long-term fix, we're also paying for barrier wall to be between the workers and the roadway drivers. But that will make people feel like they're more safer and drive faster too, which that's a really big important point that we've been trying to do a lot of monitoring and to follow me and having the work zone enforcement out there to help with that, because there are relatives, there are friends, there are family out there working in harsh conditions.
Absolutely. Another minute or so, and Kevin, I'll come to you. Can you guys talk about a little bit the collaboration between the city, the county, the state? You had Kevin Bischel on earlier. You collaborate with him, particularly when you've got bridge issues. So tell us about the collaboration and how that works.
Sure. As far as their work goes with Independence Bridge, they have invited MDOT representative a weekly meeting to know what's going on with their facilities, what they're planning on doing, closures, those types of things. So it's been an invitation for open dialogue, and we do communicate back and forth, a lot with the city engineers, and we do communicate with Kevin's office quite often, because our customers are the same, and we still need to try to provide the best service we can for anybody who utilizes any street in Bay City.
Okay. Bob, last word of anything you want to leave our viewers with about the work you do?
Well, we are in winter time, and we would like you to make sure that you don't crowd the plow. Try to stay 200 feet back. I know it's difficult to do, but if you can't see the driver, they can't see you. And this has been something where our drivers work long hours, and they're out there doing work when trying to get everything open for you. So please try to take the extra time. Especially this time we're in transition with the ground still warm, the bridge deck's getting cold, and this is when it causes a little icy interface when we come up through.
And show some patience as a driver. Yeah. The roads are going to get done. They need to get done. Show some patience and show some caution. Good work, guys. I know you've been at this a long time. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Sharing your knowledge and expertise. It's important work. And that's our show for tonight, but be sure to join us again on Tuesday, January 7th. We'll have two economists talking about the upcoming Trump administration and how his policies may impact your pocketbook. In the meantime, hit me up on social media or dial into our follow-up hotline. We'd really like to hear from you. Thanks for joining us tonight, and have a great holiday. We'll see you in a couple weeks. We have a lot more to talk about. Two of our guests that were in the big show are joining us for the after show. Steve Katenhus, MDOT's Bay City TSC manager, which is Transportation Service Center manager, and Bob Ranck, MDOT's Bay Region engineer, which I still think it's fascinating. You taught the Bay Region, but you encompass 15 counties, so you got a lot of work ahead of you. Right. So, Steve, I'm going to start with you for the after show. Expand a little bit more on the Lafayette Bridge project. It was shut down a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be totally replaced. It's going to take 30 months. Why does it take 30 months?
30 months, yes. It's a large time frame to have patrons around Bay City try to navigate our detours, but it's something that the project we didn't take lightly. We had looked at the time frames, made sure that whatever we scheduled for a contractor to come in and remove everything and replace it was adequate for them to bid appropriately, and that's where we're evolved into a 30-month time frame. As people go and look, remember what the bridge looked like. Of course, you can't go beyond our barricades, but we have to imagine that this whole entire structure is going to be removed and replaced, and so that ties into the 30-month time frame. But some of our viewers may not know that removing that's just not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of preparatory work. The foundation that the actual bridge sits on is about 25 feet below the water level. So we have to go ahead and drive a cofferdam around it. We've got to pump the water out. We've got to remove all the stuff out. We've got to drive that new foundation in the ground. So when we build up from there, it's going to be solid. It's going to be brand new, and it's going to be it's going to give us something that's going to give our viewers a bridge that'll last anywhere from 80 to 100 years. So that's where the 30 months come into play. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and the obstacles that we have to overcome are quite large. So that's where the 30
And with
comes
our changing weather that can be not so great at times. It's not like you're going to be out there every single day in the middle of February, right?
They are. They actually
wow.
are, because how we set the contract up was, you got 30 months to complete it, and after that, if you don't get it completed within that time frame, you will be assessed liquidated damages, what it costs. So it's
Okay.
money that comes out of their pocket. You know, we might have obstacles that we would encounter that might give them a little bit more time, but no, we're going to try to hold them to that 30-month window, because it is a large impact to Bay City.
Sure.
So they're going to be hitting it really hard, Mike.
Good. What else do you want to tell the viewers that we didn't talk about in the live show?
Sure.
In terms of detours, free public transportation? What else do they need to know about that?
Yeah, touched on the patrons who are walking or riding a bike. They can go ahead and get free tickets at Bay Metro. The other thing I wanted to mention too was we recognize that, you know, a lot of the users from both sides of the river are disenfranchised if they used to walk to, or you know, getting to the Boys and Girls Club. So part of our mitigation measures, we work with them. We actually are providing free busing service for that facility and their patrons. And there's a set time schedule that you can find at the Boys and Girls Club. If you're looking for a good place for your children to go after school, we held an open house there, beautiful facility. They've done some great renovations. Maybe it's something you want to check out, but we will provide free busing with in coordination with Bay Metro to anybody who wants to access Boys and Girls from the east and west side. So,
Very accommodating.
yeah.
Segue to Bob now. We get into the winter driving season. Let's talk about salt. Do you have enough salt, and how do you utilize the salt? Pros and cons of using salt. That's just been your tried and true for many, many years, right?
Yes, it has, and it's always been available. Salt is in abundance in Michigan. But we have been working really hard to look at different admixtures that we use for salt, including using beet juice and other types of materials that are natural and products that we can add to it. A lot of the times we will go out and pre-wet our bridge decks, which means we put a salt mixture on there before the storm starts, so it can start activating right away. Rather than just using water to activate the salt, we will use some of these boosters. There is a plan overall of about 4 or 5 locations around the state where we're monitoring and the use of beet juice, brine, other types of materials. We also have some non-corrosive materials that we use on the Zilwaukee Bridge, which is obviously a huge asset for us to be able to maintain and not have at all be susceptible. So we use a special machine that puts a kind of a paste down, and then we put a flake on there so it activates. But that happens to be quadruple the amount of costs that we have. Salt, when we're ready to go always, because we order it in about May time of the year, and then we have about 55,000 yards, and all of the salt sheds are full. So 55,000 ton. But that's still a way of being able to do it. We have so much technology on our trucks now. They have computer systems. They don't just dump salt like crazy. It's a matter of the trucks have so much technology. They're like rolling weather stations. So depending on the amount of ambient air temperature and the surface temperature and all the different moisture contents, it does a lot of work for us to come on and use that more efficiently. So our salt usage has been going down as we get more efficient. And if we can use some of these natural types of materials, we'll do that.
Yeah, anything else out there other than beet juice? There's always something. Anything else out there?
We have brine, and we have different types of oils like corn oil, Boost. There's different. It's not just concrete and asphalt. It has admixtures, just like salt will have that. So
You said Boost?
Yeah,
Boost,
Boost is it's a pre-wetting, and then we also will put that in the salt.
So it just kind of activates it quicker.
All right, and again, to remind the drivers, use caution, take it slow, stay way back, let the snowplow drivers and do what they got to do. So
Yeah, it's one other thing too. If viewers are at home, not out on the street driving, but if they go into our My Drive is what it's called, log into My Drive, and you can zoom in, and they will actually show you the location of our trucks as they're doing snow plowing or dumping salt. So they give you sometimes if it's working, people can push on the basically the view, and it'll show you what that truck driver is actually viewing on the street. So it's just kind of a neat thing for people who are sitting at home wondering what it's like out, what our drivers are doing.
like that, My Drive.
My Drive.
Great way to close our after show. Appreciate Steve Katenhus and Bob Ranck. Guys have been at this a long time, well experienced. We're in good hands. So appreciate the knowledge. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us in the After Show.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to click that bell icon to stay notified when we upload new content. Videos like this are only possible because of viewers like you. To help support this channel, click on the link in the description below. We'll see you next time.